Muy buenas tardes y seguimos con esta serie de entrevistas en el marco del cuarto Encuentro de Economía y Derechos Humanos organizados por el CEMoP y la Fundación Madres de Plaza de Mayo. En esta ocasión nos acompaña Mark Weinsbrot, él es estadounidense, y también nos acompaña Jorge Marchini, que nos va a oficiar un poco de traductores, ¿no? Ya que Mark habla obviamente en inglés. Así que bueno, la primera pregunta yo diría es, ¿con qué expectativas se viene a este cuarto encuentro de economía política?
Well, I think it's very good. It's very important. It's a place where there were people from various countries, and a lot of people from here came and attended. And it was a place where you can discuss ideas about some of the great changes that are taking place in the world, and especially in this hemisphere.
¿Cómo evalúa, Mark, la actual crisis económica mundial, ¿no?
I think that's it kind of been misnamed. It has been misnamed by the media, a financial crisis, in the sense that if you look at the United States economy, which is the largest in the world, our recession, which is a very serious recession, was not the result of a financial crisis. It was the result of the bursting of a huge housing bubble. More than $8 trillion of bubble wealth was created, and about $6 trillion of that has disappeared. And then you have the construction sector as well, of course, shrinks enormously in this situation. So the real economy is what is driving this recession, not so much the financial economy.
¿Ya pasó esta crisis o todavía puede...?
Is then the crisis over or not?
Well, the world economy is still very weak. I mean, again, looking at the biggest parts of the economy, the U.S. economy, the European economy, the Japanese economy. U.S. and Europe together are the majority of the world economy. And these economies are quite weak right now. They're growing very slowly in the United States. We are not even creating enough jobs to keep up with the labor force growth. So therefore unemployment is increasing in the United States. And Europe is also slowing right now. So it is a very tenuous and weak recovery in the largest economies of the world.
Un dato fundamental es que cuando se ha reunido el grupo de los 20, uno pensaba que se podía llegar a una nueva arquitectura financiera. Sin embargo, el grupo de los 20, por supuesto presionado por los países centrales, le ha dado mucho más poder al Fondo Monetario Internacional, ¿no? Esto parece casi una contradicción, porque el Fondo Monetario Internacional ha tenido que ver mucho, fue parte importante del problema, ¿no? De la solución.
Yes, that is a big problem, and the IMF has gained an enormous amount of power and money since this crisis, since the recession began in 2008. In 2007, the IMF was almost gone. They had hardly any loans left in the world. Just you know, Turkey and Pakistan was most of their whole portfolio. Now they have $750 billion, and they are trying to get $1 trillion. And so they have become much more influential. However, I should say that the countries where they lost influence in the last decade, in Latin America, in the middle-income countries of Asia, in Russia, they're not going back there. So all the countries that threw out the IMF in the last decade, the IMF is not returning. Where it is going mostly is to Europe, to Eastern Europe, and of course still to the poorest countries of the world. So that is one aspect of it. Another thing you mentioned is the G20. The problem with the G20, it is a very important symbolic change, but it does not hold power. The power still resides with the G7 countries, and sometimes in Washington we say the G1, which is the United States. They are the ones who control the institutions, the IMF, the World Bank, the Inter-American Development Bank, the Paris Club. So because the control over the institutions that have power in the international economy is still concentrated in only the rich countries, the G20 does not really have an influence.
Ahora, el Banco Mundial y el Fondo Monetario Internacional, digo, cuando se les da más poder, ¿qué es lo que de alguna manera se propone? ¿Qué es lo que propone el Fondo Monetario para salir de esta crisis internacional?
Well, that's an interesting question too, because the fund has kind of a double standard. For the rich countries, the fund is much more likely to recommend the kind of policies that your government used successfully after 2002. At least they recommend policies that stimulate the economy in terms of monetary policy and fiscal policy even for the rich countries. But they don't do the same for middle-income countries and for developing countries. They are very often, the majority of their agreements contain what we call pro-cyclical policies, that is, policies that actually make the economy worse when it is weak or in a recession. And now, together with the European Commission, they are also recommending those kinds of policies for the weaker economies in the Eurozone, for Spain, Portugal, Ireland, Italy, and Greece. So you do have a problem. The IMF has still, it still is maintaining its attachment to these pro-cyclical policies which make the economy worse when it is weak.
Hablemos un poco de, ya que estamos hablando de organismos financieros, hablemos del Banco del Sur. ¿Cómo ve esta propuesta iniciada para Latinoamérica de tener un propio banco para financiar proyectos productivos y que podría llegar a entrar, aunque no son lo mismo, en contradicción con lo que es el Fondo Monetario y el Banco Mundial, ¿no?
Well, I think the Bank of the South is a very important project, and I hope that it moves forward quickly. I think it's important for the governments to work out the details so that it can begin lending. You know, one example, if you look at the what is the alternative to the Bank of the South that exists? It's the Inter-American Development Bank, for example. They've lent maybe 2 or 3% of their lending in recent years has gone to regional integration projects. So there's a definite need for something that will promote the integration of Latin America, and especially South America, which is very much ready for this. So that's very important. Obviously, the IMF and the World Bank don't like this kind of, or the World Bank would be the competition, but I think it will go forward.
Aquí la ortodoxia económica ve o dice que la Argentina está aislada del mundo, ¿no? O sea, como que no está inserta en el contexto de las naciones, en el contexto internacional, ¿no? ¿Cómo se ve a la Argentina desde afuera, digamos? ¿Está aislada o está complementada con el resto?
No, if you look at it from the United States, Argentina doesn't seem any different from any other country in Latin America. I think the business press especially tends to exaggerate the importance of foreign borrowing and foreign investment. If you look at the great success stories of the 20th century, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, they were not dependent on foreign investment, for example, for their growth. And you look at Argentina between 2002 and 2008, when the economy grew 63% in 6 years. It was the fastest growing economy in this hemisphere. They didn't even have access to international financial markets. So while it is good, it's always good to have access to foreign capital, and it can be useful, and it's good to have more choices. It is not at all essential. It is not the foundation of economic growth or development or increasing living standards. It never has been.